Tennessee looks simple on the surface, but hidden beneath it are forces that have reversed rivers, reshaped the land, and created landscapes most people never notice. And once you see them, you won't look at this state the same way again. Let's discover 50 incredible facts about Tennessee. 50! Tennessee touches more states than almost anywhere else. Tennessee borders 8 different states, more than almost any other in the country. Kentucky, Virginia, North Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, and Missouri. That's 8 completely different directions, 8 different cultures, 8 different landscapes, all within reach. But here's what makes that unusual. Most states feel like destinations. Tennessee feels like a crossroads. Drive a few hours in almost any direction, and everything changes. Mountains turn into farmland, forests turn into open plains, Southern culture blends into Appalachian roots, then shifts again. It's not just geography, it's constant transition. 49. The Mississippi River doesn't just border Tennessee, it shapes it. On the western edge of Tennessee flows one of the most powerful rivers on Earth, the Mississippi River, over 2,300 miles long, touching more than 30 states. It's not just a river, it's a system that reshapes land over time. And when it reaches Tennessee, everything changes. The ground becomes flatter, softer, richer. The soil here is some of the most fertile in the country, built over centuries of flooding and sediment. Wildlife thrives, agriculture explodes, entire ecosystems form around it. Stand on its edge, and you're not just looking at water, you're looking at a force that has quietly redesigned the entire western side of the state. 48. Tennessee is stretched in a way most states aren't. Tennessee runs nearly 440 miles from east to west, but only about 120 miles from north to south. It's long, narrow, almost ribbon-like, and that shape does something most people don't realize. It compresses multiple environments into one line. Start in the east, and you're surrounded by mountains. Move toward the center, and those mountains soften into rolling hills. Keep going, and everything flattens into wide-open delta land. In just a few hours, you don't just travel distance, you travel through entirely different worlds. 47. The Smoky Mountains look like they're on fire, but they're not. The haze that gives the Great Smoky Mountains their name isn't smoke at all. It's caused by natural compounds released from millions of trees, mixing with moisture in the air to create a soft blue fog. From a distance, it looks like the mountains are slowly burning, but what you're really seeing is the forest interacting with the atmosphere in real time. The effect is constant, shifting, alive, and it's one of the reasons this region is considered one of the most visually unique landscapes in the entire country. 46. Clingman's Dome lets you see across multiple states at once, at over 6,600 feet above sea level. Clingman's Dome is the highest point in Tennessee, but the number isn't what matters, it's what happens when you reach the top. On a clear day, visibility can stretch over 100 miles. That means from a single point, you can look out across multiple states, layers of mountains fading into the distance. The air is thinner, cooler, quieter, and for a moment, everything below you feels distant, almost unreal. It's not just a viewpoint, it's perspective. Before continuing, be sure to like and subscribe to keep the incredible geography of America unfolding. 45. The Tennessee River doesn't flow the way you'd expect. Most rivers move in a straight path. The Tennessee River doesn't. It twists, bends, and loops across 652 miles, forming a massive arc through the state. At times, it feels like it's doubling back on itself, almost unsure of where it wants to go. But there's a reason for that. Over thousands of years, the river has slowly carved its path through rock and soil, reshaping valleys, feeding farmland, and creating entire ecosystems along its edges. It's not just a river you follow, it's a river that rewrote the land to fit itself. 44. Tennessee is hiding thousands of caves beneath your feet. Beneath the surface of Tennessee, there's an entirely different world. Over 10,000 known caves, and that number keeps growing. Some stretch for miles, some contain underground rivers, and some still haven't been fully explored. This happens because much of Tennessee sits on limestone, a rock that slowly dissolves when water passes through it. Over time, the ground opens up, rooms form, tunnels connect, entire hidden systems take shape beneath the hills, So while everything above ground feels familiar, below it is a landscape most people will never see. 43. Tennessee is basically 3 states in one. Geographically, Tennessee is divided into 3 distinct regions: East, Middle, and West. But these aren't small differences. They feel like completely separate worlds. In the East, mountains rise sharply, covered in dense forest and mist. In the middle, rolling hills stretch outward, softer and more open. And in the West, everything flattens into wide delta land near the Mississippi. Same state, 3 completely different identities. And depending on where you are, Tennessee can feel like an entirely different place. 42. The Cumberland Plateau is more rugged than it looks. From a distance, the Cumberland Plateau looks calm, forested, quiet, almost peaceful, but step into it, and everything changes. Steep cliffs, deep gorges, rocky terrain that drops off faster than expected. It's a place where elevation shifts quickly, and where the land feels less controlled, more wild. And hidden within it are rare plants and ecosystems that exist nowhere else in the state. It may look still from afar, but up close, it's unpredictable. 41. Tennessee has enough waterways to circle the earth, twice. Tennessee is packed with water, rivers, streams, creeks weaving through nearly every part of the state. In total, over 50,000 miles of waterways. That's enough to wrap around the earth, twice. And these aren't just lines on a map. They shape everything, from where towns are built, to how land is farmed, to where wildlife thrives. Look at Tennessee from above, and it wouldn't look like solid land. It would look like a network, constantly moving, constantly flowing. 40. West Tennessee feels nothing like the rest of the state. By the time you reach West Tennessee, it almost doesn't feel like the same place anymore. The mountains are gone, the hills flatten out, and suddenly, everything opens up. This region is part of the Mississippi Delta, known for its rich, dark soil and wide, uninterrupted farmland. The horizon stretches farther, the air feels heavier, and the landscape becomes simpler, but more powerful. It's quieter in a different way, and it's a reminder that Tennessee isn't one environment. It's multiple worlds stitched together. 39. A violent earthquake created an entire lake overnight. In the early 1800s, something happened here that shouldn't have been possible. A series of massive earthquakes struck near the New Madrid Fault, and during one of them, the ground shifted so violently that the Mississippi River temporarily flowed backward. Forests were swallowed, land sank, water rushed in, and just like that, Reelfoot Lake was born. Even today, the lake still feels different. Shallow, swampy, filled with cypress trees rising out of the water like remnants of the past. It's not just a lake, it's evidence of how fast the land can change. 38. Tennessee has traces of ancient volcanic activity. There are no active volcanoes in Tennessee, but that doesn't mean they were never here. Millions of years ago, volcanic activity helped shape parts of the region. Today, what remains are ancient volcanic rocks scattered across areas like Shiloh. No lava, no eruptions, just quiet evidence, hidden in the ground. It's easy to overlook, but it tells a much bigger story. That the land you see today was once far more violent than it appears. 37. You can experience multiple climates in a single day. In most places, the weather changes gradually. In Tennessee, it can shift completely in just a few hours. Start your day in the eastern mountains, cool air, mist, even a chill. Drive west, and temperatures rise, humidity builds, the air feels heavier. By the time you reach the delta, it can feel like a different season entirely. It's not just weather, it's geography controlling climate in real time. And if you time it right, you can experience it all in one drive. 36. The Chickasaw Bluffs rise where the land shouldn't. Along the Mississippi River, the land is supposed to be flat, but suddenly, it rises. The Chickasaw Bluffs stand above the river, steep, elevated ridges cutting into an otherwise level landscape. They weren't placed there randomly, they were shaped over time, by erosion, shifting water, and geological pressure. And because of their height, they became natural lookout points, places where you can stand above the river and watch it move through the land it helped create. They don't just break the landscape, they interrupt it. 35. Tennessee is one of the richest freshwater ecosystems in the U.S. Tennessee doesn't just have water, It has life inside that water, a lot of it. Over 200 species of freshwater fish live here. That's more than most states east of the Mississippi. And it's not random. The mix of rivers, streams, elevation changes, and water temperature creates perfect conditions for biodiversity. Bass, catfish, rare species you won't find anywhere else. To most people, it's just a river. But beneath the surface, it's one of the most biologically active freshwater systems in the country. 34. This road follows paths used thousands of years ago. The Natchez Trace Parkway isn't just a scenic drive. It follows a route that existed long before modern roads. For thousands of years, animals used it, then indigenous peoples, then early travelers. And today, you can still drive that same path. It winds through forests, hills, and open land, almost unchanged in direction. You're not just moving through Tennessee, you're moving through a path carved by history itself. 33. Tennessee has more mountains than most people realize. When people think of Tennessee mountains, they think of the Smokies. But there are actually over 50 named mountains across the state. Some rise over 4,000 feet, others are smaller, easy to miss from the road. And that's the strange part. You can drive past a mountain in Tennessee and not even realize it has a name, a history, and a place on the map. They're everywhere, just quietly existing in the background. 32. Some of Tennessee's rock formations look almost unnatural. Across parts of the state, the rock doesn't look normal. Cliffs rise sharply, stone pillars stand upright. Formations look carved, almost intentionally, but it's all natural. Limestone, sandstone, shale, shaped over millions of years by erosion, pressure, and time. Places like the chimney tops look less like terrain and more like structures, as if the land was designed instead of formed. 31. There are rivers flowing beneath Tennessee that you'll never see. Not all rivers are visible. Some of them flow completely underground, hidden inside cave systems, moving through darkness for miles. One of the most well-known is inside the Cumberland Caverns, where water moves through tunnels carved out over thousands of years. You could be standing on solid ground with an entire river system flowing silently beneath you, out of sight, but constantly shaping the land above. 30. Most of Tennessee's lakes didn't exist naturally. When you see a lake in Tennessee, it might look natural, but most of them aren't. The majority are man-made reservoirs, created for flood control, electricity, and water supply. Places like Norris Lake, Douglas Lake, and Percy Priest Lake. They weren't always there. Entire valleys were flooded. Landscapes were reshaped. Water replaced what used to be forests and fields. So when you're out on a calm lake, you're actually floating over what used to be land. 29. Tennessee's landscape is shaped like a repeating pattern. In East Tennessee, the land forms a pattern you can actually see. Ridge, valley, over and over again. This is known as the valley and ridge system, a series of long, narrow ridges running in parallel lines. From above, it looks like a natural barcode carved into the earth. But it's not random. It was formed by ancient tectonic forces, folding the land over time. And today, it still affects everything. Roads, towns, even how the wind moves through the region. 28. Tennessee has areas that feel almost like a desert. When people picture Tennessee, they don't think of dry, sandy land, but it exists. In certain parts of the state, the soil becomes loose, sandy, and sparse. Vegetation struggles to grow. The ground looks dry, almost out of place. These aren't true deserts, but they behave like one, and they support rare plants that can't survive anywhere else nearby. It's a small detail, but it adds another layer to how varied this state really is. 27. The northern border was shaped by natural weaknesses in the land. The border between Tennessee and Kentucky wasn't drawn randomly. It follows areas where the land naturally dips. Lower, easier terrain shaped by rivers and erosion. For early travelers and settlers, these routes mattered. They made movement easier, trade faster, expansion possible. And even today, many modern roads still follow these same natural pathways. So what looks like a simple line on a map is actually geography quietly guiding human decisions. 26. This valley is so straight, it almost looks artificial. The Sequatchie Valley doesn't look natural at first. It stretches for about 65 miles, long, narrow, and unusually straight. Most valleys twist and curve. This one doesn't. It cuts through the landscape like a line, bordered by steep cliffs on both sides. It's one of the few places in the US with this kind of formation, and when you stand inside it, it feels less like a valley and more like the land was split open. 25. Nearly half of Tennessee is covered in forest. From above, Tennessee looks almost completely green. That's because nearly half the state is covered in forests. But these aren't all the same. In the east, dense hardwood forests climb up misty mountains. In the middle, rolling woodlands stretch across hills and valleys. And in some areas, managed pine forests create entire regions of uniform trees. These forests do more than look good. They regulate temperature, hold water in the soil, support massive ecosystems. Travel through Tennessee long enough, and it starts to feel like the state itself is wrapped in a living layer of green. 24. The ground in Tennessee is constantly shifting beneath the surface. In parts of Tennessee, the ground isn't as solid as it seems. This is because of something called karst topography. The bedrock, mostly limestone, slowly dissolves when water passes through it. Over time, that creates sinkholes, underground streams, hidden voids beneath the surface. You could be driving on a perfectly normal road, with empty space forming beneath you. It's slow, invisible, but it means the land is always changing, even when it looks still. 23. There's a giant natural ring hidden in the landscape. Middle Tennessee contains something unusual. A massive formation called the Highland Rim, which completely surrounds the Nashville Basin. Picture a wide, shallow bowl encircled by higher land. From ground level, it's hard to notice, but from above, it looks like the center of the state is sitting inside a natural boundary. This shape affects everything: farming, drainage, settlement patterns. It's a subtle feature, but once you see it, you realize the land isn't random at all. 22. Tennessee's elevation changes more than you'd expect. At its lowest point, near the Mississippi River, Tennessee sits at about 178 feet above sea level. At its highest point, Clingman's Dome, it rises to over 6,600 feet. That's a difference of more than a mile, straight up. And that change happens across one state. It's why climates shift, why ecosystems vary, why the same day can feel completely different depending on where you are. In Tennessee, height changes everything. 21. Tennessee's rivers didn't just flow, they carved the land. Rivers don't just move through Tennessee, they shape it. Over thousands of years, they've cut through rock and soil, forming valleys, floodplains, and natural corridors. The Cumberland River, the Tennessee River, countless smaller streams, all of them slowly reshaping the terrain. Towns form around them, farms depend on them, roads follow their paths. So when you look at a river in Tennessee, you're not just seeing water, you're seeing something that helped design the entire landscape around it. 20. Humans have reshaped Tennessee's rivers on a massive scale. Not all of Tennessee's geography is natural anymore. Dams like the Chickamauga Dam have completely changed how rivers behave. Water levels are controlled, flow is regulated, entire sections of river have turned into lakes. What used to be fast-moving currents are now calm, controlled reservoirs. It provides electricity, prevents flooding, supports recreation, but it also shows something bigger. At this scale, humans aren't just living in the landscape, they're redesigning it. 19. Some of Tennessee's landscapes exist nowhere else on Earth. Scattered across Middle Tennessee are places called cedar glades. At first glance, they don't look like they belong. Flat, rocky ground, thin soil, sparse vegetation, almost like a break in the environment. But these areas are incredibly rare. They support plants that exist nowhere else on Earth, species that adapted to survive in harsh, dry, exposed conditions. Walk through one, and it doesn't feel like Tennessee anymore. It feels separate. 18. You don't have to climb mountains to find waterfalls here. Most people think of waterfalls as something you find deep in the mountains, but in Tennessee, they're everywhere. Hidden in valleys, tucked into forests, cutting through rock in places you wouldn't expect. Some are massive drops, others are small, almost hidden, but all of them exist because water has been slowly carving through layers of rock, finding weaknesses and turning them into something visible. You don't have to search far, you just have to know where to look. 17. The soil beneath Tennessee changes more than you'd expect. Walk across Tennessee, and the ground beneath you is constantly changing. Sandy soil in the west, rich, fertile loam in the center, rocky, uneven ground in the mountains. Each type supports different crops, different forests, different ecosystems. It's like a patchwork, spread across the state. And it's one of the main reasons Tennessee can support such a wide variety of agriculture and wildlife. Everything starts from the ground up. 16. Tennessee's limestone is quietly reshaping the entire state. Much of Tennessee sits on limestone, a rock that dissolves when water passes through it. That might sound small, but over time, it changes everything. Caves form, sinkholes appear, underground rivers develop. Entire sections of land are slowly being reshaped from the inside out. It's not dramatic, it's not fast, but it never stops. And it means the Tennessee you see today is still evolving beneath your feet. 15. One of the largest cave systems in the U.S. is hidden here. Deep beneath Tennessee lies one of the largest cave systems in the country. Cumberland Caverns stretches for more than 27 miles, and that's just what's been explored. Inside, there are massive chambers, narrow tunnels, underground streams echoing through darkness. Some areas are so large, they've hosted concerts underground. And yet, parts of the system remain unmapped. It's not just a cave. It's an entire hidden world, still being discovered. 14. Tennessee contains multiple climates in small pockets. Across Tennessee, the weather doesn't just change, it fragments. Mountains trap cooler air. Valleys hold warmth, lakes and rivers shift local temperatures. These create microclimates, small areas where conditions feel completely different from the surrounding region. You could be standing in cool, misty air, then drive minutes away, and feel warmth and sun. It's like multiple climates, layered inside one state. 13. This region is one of the largest karst landscapes in the U.S., one of the largest east of the Mississippi River. That means the land is filled with caves, sinkholes, underground streams. Water doesn't just flow across the surface here, it disappears, moves through the ground, and reappears somewhere else. It's a landscape that doesn't behave the way you expect, and in many places, what's happening underground matters just as much as what's above it. 12. Tennessee's waterfalls come in every form imaginable. Waterfalls in Tennessee aren't all the same. Some plunge straight down into deep pools. Others cascade slowly over layers of rock. Some are wide and powerful. Others are narrow and hidden. Each one is shaped by the rock beneath it, and how water interacts with it over time. Places like Fall Creek Falls are massive and dramatic, but others are quiet, tucked away in forests. It's not just about seeing one waterfall, it's about realizing how many different forms water can take. 11. The Smoky Mountains are one of the most biologically rich places in America. The Great Smoky Mountains aren't just scenic. They're one of the most biodiverse regions in North America. Thousands of plant species, hundreds of animal species, some found nowhere else. The combination of elevation, rainfall, and ancient geology creates an environment where life thrives in layers. From tiny salamanders to towering forests, it's less like a single ecosystem, and more like many ecosystems stacked on top of each other. 10. Tennessee is a critical stop for migrating birds. Every year, thousands of birds pass through Tennessee, not randomly, but following ancient migration routes tied to rivers and wetlands, especially in the western delta, where floodplains create perfect resting points. Ducks, geese, herons, entire flocks moving across continents, stopping here to survive the journey. To most people, it's just a quiet wetland, but at the right time, it becomes a highway in the sky. 9. Some cliffs in Tennessee create their own ecosystems. Across parts of the state, sandstone cliffs rise out of the landscape, sharp, exposed, unexpected. But what makes them different is what lives on them. These cliffs create microhabitats, places where only certain plants and animals can survive. Birds nest in narrow ledges. Rare plants grow in cracks in the rock. It's life adapting to extremes, in places most people would never think to look. 8. Rivers in Tennessee quietly decided where people would live. If you look at a map, towns in Tennessee don't seem random. They follow rivers. That's because rivers created fertile land, access to water, and natural travel routes. Over time, Settlements formed along bends and floodplains. Roads followed. Cities grew. So even today, when you drive through Tennessee, you're often following decisions made by rivers, hundreds of years ago. 7. Tennessee was shaped by glaciers, without ever having glaciers. During the last ice age, glaciers never reached Tennessee, but they still changed it. Meltwater from massive ice sheets to the north flowed downward, carrying sediment, reshaping rivers, altering soil. So even without ice covering the land, Tennessee still carries its fingerprints, hidden in riverbeds, buried in soil layers, a distant force that still shaped what you see today. 6. Some of Tennessee's toughest plants grow where almost nothing else can. On the Cumberland Plateau and surrounding ridges, the soil is thin, rocky, unforgiving, and yet life finds a way. Specialized plants grow here, adapted to survive with less water, less soil, harsher conditions, species that wouldn't survive anywhere else nearby. It's not lush, it's not easy, but it's proof that even in the most difficult environments, life adjusts and continues. 5. Tennessee's rivers have carved entire canyons over time, over millions of years. Tennessee's rivers didn't just flow, they cut, slowly, relentlessly, carving through rock to create deep valleys and canyons. Some are narrow and steep, others wide and layered with forests. Inside them, temperatures drop, moisture builds, entire ecosystems form that don't exist above, stand at the edge, and look down. And you're not just seeing a river, you're seeing time, carved into the earth. 4. Tennessee packs multiple ecosystems into incredibly small areas. In some parts of the state, you can walk a few miles and pass through completely different environments: forests, rocky glades, wetlands, open fields, all within a short distance. This creates micro-ecosystems, places where different types of life exist side by side, even if they normally wouldn't. It's like stepping through different regions of the country, without ever leaving the state. 3. Tennessee's caves hold formations that took thousands of years to build. Inside Tennessee's caves, everything forms slowly, drop by drop, mineral by mineral. Stalactites grow from ceilings, stalagmites rise from the ground, twisted formations stretch in impossible directions. Some of these structures took thousands of years to form, and they're still growing. It's quiet, dark, almost frozen in time, but in reality, it's one of the slowest ongoing transformations happening in the state. 2. Tennessee's landscape can change dramatically in just a few hours. Drive across Tennessee, and the transformation is immediate. Mountains give way to hills. Hills flatten into farmland. Humidity rises, air shifts. In just a few hours, you experience entirely different environments. It's not gradual, it's noticeable, and it's one of the reasons Tennessee feels so much larger than it actually is. 1. Tennessee might be one of the most geographically diverse states in the U.S. At first glance, Tennessee doesn't stand out, but when you really look at it, mountains, plateaus, valleys, rivers, lakes, caves, wetlands, delta land, all packed into one state, each region with its own climate, its own ecosystem, its own identity. It's not just variety, it's contrast. And once you see it, you realize something. Tennessee isn't just one place, it's many, layered together. So now the question is, how much of Tennessee have people actually seen? Because most of what makes this state unique isn't obvious at all, and once you start noticing it, you don't see it the same way again. Leave comments about what surprised you. Check out the next video on your screen. Don't forget to like and subscribe.